It was a rainy evening in London when David finished his overtime shift. The streets were wet, reflecting the dim glow of the old street lamps. He hurried to catch the last train from King's Cross station. The clock struck 11:59 p.m. as he rushed onto the platform. The train waiting there looked strangely out of place, an old black steam engine with wooden carriages, its paint faded, yet spotless, as if pulled out from a museum. David hesitated for a moment. Strange. I thought they stopped these trains decades ago. But the rain was heavy, and he didn't want to miss the last ride home. He stepped inside. The carriage smelled faintly of coal and wet wood. Only a few passengers sat scattered around, an old lady knitting, a man in a bowler hat reading a newspaper dated 1923, and two children whispering to each other in accents he could hardly recognize. The doors slammed shut on their own, and the train began to move with a loud whistle. At first, David tried to calm himself. Maybe this is one of those heritage trains? Or a late-night special service? But as the train rattled through the tunnels, he noticed something odd.
Please stop getting on or off the train. Please move inside the car as you enter the train. 此站台是本港方向列车请紧急看随降台从东港方向The train bound for Shanghai.
There were no announcements, no electronic boards, no modern signs. Instead, everything looked frozen in time. He leaned closer to the man with the newspaper and asked, "Excuse me, where does this train go?" The man lowered his paper slowly, revealing pale, hollow eyes. He smiled faintly and whispered, "We're all going back. Back where we came from." David's stomach tightened. He stood up and tried moving to the next carriage, but the connecting door was locked tight. The children giggled softly, pointing at him, and one of them said, "You don't belong here." Not yet. As the train roared through the darkness, David glanced out of the window. Instead of familiar stations, he saw flashes of empty platforms covered in dust, abandoned signs, and shadows moving along the tracks. Once, he even thought he saw people waving desperately from the darkness, faces pale, eyes hollow, as if begging to be let inside. Then, the old lady spoke without looking up from her knitting. "You shouldn't have boarded, young man. This train doesn't stop for the living." David's heart pounded. He rushed to the door, pulling, banging, shouting, but the heavy wooden doors wouldn't budge. The whistle screamed again, echoing like a cry from the underworld. Finally, after what felt like hours, the train slowed. David pressed his face against the glass, hoping to see his station. But when it stopped, the platform outside was shrouded in thick fog. There was no name, no people, no lights, just silence. The passengers around him stood up, one by one. They walked slowly towards the exit. As they passed David, he noticed their faces growing faint, their bodies turning transparent. They were fading away into the mist. The old lady was the last to leave. Before stepping off, she touched David's arm and whispered, "This isn't your time. When it is, you'll find this train again." And then, with a final hiss of steam, the carriage emptied. David blinked, and suddenly found himself back at King's Cross platform, drenched in rain, clutching his briefcase. The clock read 12:01 a.m. The platform was empty, except for a modern electric train preparing to depart. Confused and trembling, David stepped onto it, surrounded by ordinary passengers. He tried convincing himself that it was all a dream. But when he sat down and opened his hand, he froze. Resting in his palm was a single rusty train ticket, stamped with the date, March 12, 1923.